Or sometimes they'll remember just the last few moments of the end of an encounter. So you see, some people do remember these little bits and pieces of memory and really wonder about that and are frightened about that. And also sometimes people wonder because they wake up and they have some unusual new physical markings on their body. They might be like a little pattern of pinprick-looking marks forming a ring or a circle or a triangle or a straight line, or they might have unusual bruises. And they're thinking, I couldn't have done that during the night. How did that get onto my skin? Or they'll have a scoop-shaped mark or a perfectly straight line cut that might be 1.5 inches or so long. And again, they're thinking, well, there's nothing that I could have possibly done in my sleep, that would have caused that sort of marking or that bruising.
Sounds pretty scary. This part of it for people that have no frame of reference is really scary. I want to bring us back just a little bit to talk about the subconscious in order to deepen our understanding of why you're able to do this.
Yes.
Is it true in your experience and in the science of this work that the subconscious contains everything? All recorded experience?
Yes, I believe, and I think there's lots of study on this. I do believe that is true, that no matter what we experience, whether we're asleep and it's a dream or we're perfectly conscious and awake, or in this case where we're made to be unaware by these other beings in an encounter, so even if we're not consciously aware of something having occurred, having happened with us, the subconscious mind does record it. And that's why when we go into that nice, deep state of relaxation and the person is more open and receptive, this material, the memories, can come up from the subconscious mind. It's a wonderful thing, I think, that we have this. And many people, when they wake up in the morning or they're awake in the middle of the night and they're aware that something peculiar is happening, they attribute it to a dream, particularly when they wake up in the morning. And we can understand why they do this. They've just been sleeping, and so it totally sees that whatever is going on must be a dream. That's a comfortable way to think of it, and it kind of makes sense to the person. But yet, if we do regress to whatever that incident was, if it's a dream, nothing further would come up from, that experience because it wouldn't have been a real experience. But if it was a real experience, then it does unfold and has a tremendous amount of reality to it. So after the person is finished with the regression, and we're always talking about it a bit, debriefing it and sort of integrating what happened, I always say, well, what did that seem to you? How real or not did that experience seem to you? And, almost invariably they'll say, well, it just seemed absolutely real. I don't see how I could have made that up. And yet, as with any kind of hypnosis or any kind of regression work for any topic at all, a person might say, I know it was real, but I wonder if I could have made that up. And I can understand that because in the last 25 years, I've had quite a number of regressions done by my colleagues on me. And even though while I'm going through whatever that material is that's coming up in the regression, I'm completely into it. I'm totally convinced, and I know it's real. And yet, after I've come out of it, I think, gee, I wonder if I could have made that up. It just seems to be one of our natural human reactions. But on the whole, people do sense and feel quite convinced, except for that question that comes and goes quickly. They do feel that, okay, this has really happened to me.
Several months ago, I interviewed Dr. Roberta Temis, who was one of the people that brought hypnosis to the medical field many years ago. We didn't talk about the subject of any type of ET regression, but she had said that it is possible through the subconscious for people to quit smoking in like an hour, with an hour of hypnosis, literally an hour.
Oh, sure.
And by phone even, which blew my mind. And also I interviewed several of the remote viewers in the Stargate program, and they said that the subconscious carries everything, the past, the present, and the future. You can access things going on. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's interesting.
I do, actually, and it is perfectly possible to do a progression rather than a regression, a progression to the future. And there have been certain people who've really made almost, you'd say, a lifetime study on progressions. Dr. Helen Wambach, for instance, back in the 1970s and 1980s, used to work with large groups of people, 40 or 50 at a time, regressing them all at the same time. And she would regress them to whatever period of history they felt inclined to go back to. And she would take them through what we consider to be past life regressions. And then in those workshops, for those who would like to participate in this, she would do a progression and let them choose which time frame in the future, maybe 50 years from now or 250 or 1,000 years or whatever, into the future. And it was amazing the details that came up from people's progressions. She even was working on a book about this called Mass Dreams of the Future. And then she became infirmed and died. And her colleague working with her, Dr. Chet Snow, he carried on the work and actually published that book, Mass Dreams of the Future. And the thing that is so amazing about it is that out of, several hundred people who would regress, this was over a period of a few years, but who would progress to a particular time period, let's say 250 years from now, what they came up with in terms of the material from their progressions remarkably agreed with each other.
Wow, that's wild.
Pretty powerful. And we can't help but wonder, wow, is that really going to be true? So we don't know, but I think that that's a very interesting subject. And then, of course, we know that remote viewers have a way of going into the past or into whatever the subject is anywhere in the world currently, and they also allegedly do see into the future. So I do think that in our total makeup with our higher knowing, shall we say, our higher self, and also the subconscious mind, there is just so much that we have access to that usually we don't even think about, as we go through our daily lives.
I think it's remarkable that hypnosis and regression therapy works, and that somehow you're able to get the agreement from the person who's allowing you in to bypass their conscious mind. That's pretty remarkable by itself.
I know.
That is, to me, the mastery of the profession, that you're able to facilitate that.
Yes, well, we have to keep in mind here that people come voluntarily.
Right.
I mean, I never seek out somebody to regress, but people, one way or another, hear about my work, and they contact me and ask for a regression. So that's how it all begins. So, in other words, each one of those people is willing to kind of go into a different state of awareness in order to find out what they want to know.
How do you know as the therapist whether they're just spouting off stuff or whether it really happened? How do you distinguish that?
Well, that's such a good